Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the wide angle cam. And that's because I'm going to take a look at some larger stuff. Some smaller stuff too, but I'm going to start out big here. This is going to be basically my fixed blade collection. And I don't have an enormous amount, nor am I a super expert in a lot of fixed blade sort of things, but I do have some interesting pieces. So I did kind of want to go over that. And starting out, I got a real big one here. This is, this is the Cold Steel Gim. This is a cutting jian, so a Chinese style sword. We have rosewood for the handle here, and the scabbard. They come loose a lot. It is kind of a problem with them. The sword itself works fine. Here, let me go ahead and unsheath the little sucker here. And yeah, what I have here is a 30-inch long blade of 1060 steel. So yeah, high carbon. They have polished the ever-loving crap out of this thing. I haven't really done a whole lot except for, I don't know, whack a couple of things here and there because it was fun. And, well, it's a battle-ready sword. What are you going to do? And yeah, we have some brass accents and stuff on here. They list them on their site as retailing for something like $489, which is absolutely just astronomically expensive compared to what they actually sell for. I picked this thing up from a seller off of Amazon a few years ago. I want to say it was under 150 bucks, probably 135, 140, maybe somewhere around there. And at that price, sure, I was happy to pick the darn thing up. So the thing that I do want to mention about this is a cutting jian. What I actually want and what I haven't been able to find decently is a properly balanced Tai Chi sword, or a jian, Jian. This one is very blade heavy because, well, as long as I'm not whacking it against metal things right here in front of me, yeah, it has a lot of that designed for that, not for the flow of martial arts and things like that, which is something that I did kind of want. I know Cass Hanway had made one that I did want for a very long time. I used to have it in my cutlery shop a lot. And unfortunately, they don't make them at all anymore, and no plans to do anything like that in the future. I guess Cass Hanway, the Hanway factory, more or less, had a large fire problem, catastrophe sort of thing that happened years ago, and it destroyed a lot of equipment and things like that. And from that point forward, I don't believe they are making anything but their Japanese style, katanas, wakizashi tantos, those sets. So they're not making their Chinese or Filipino or any of the other kind of things going on there. And that makes me sad because I really did kind of want something that was very nice and balanced. But this was basically a nice confirmation, I suppose, or consolation. That's the word I'm looking for. So yeah, it's nice. It's sharp. It can be scary, and it's very blade heavy because, well, cold steel is all about getting the most cutting power out of something. But you would absolutely never want to use this for any kind of martial arts practices, rituals, and things like that because it has absolutely no balance for it. This was designed basically for cutting people. And I suppose it'll do a pretty good job of that. It is basically held in here with a single pin here, and then, screwed on with a nut there on the end on the pommel. Pretty interesting piece. Alright, next one up that I have that's pretty large here is another one that's quite interesting. Now, this is a Japanese bayonet. And, we have this nice blackened sheath for it, and we can open that up there. I'll smack my poles again. Yeah, sorry about that. But yes, as you can see, this thing is not in immaculate condition, nor did it ever kind of get to me in that particular way either many years ago. This is a very, very long son of a gun here. Yep, well over a foot. But yes, this was for the Japanese military. Kind of latched onto their rifles there. Kind of at the back here. I have, after a lot of work and everything, got this thing nicely lubricated and unrustified, so it actually does function great. And hey, the spring's still absolutely fantastic for this being a piece from World War II. We can see from the symbols here that, yeah, this was manufactured from Matsushita Kinzoku KK Arsenal. That's basically what this one means, but they also had both of these. This basically meant, in this particular context, that it was produced in the Tokyo region, because they had some kind of put elsewhere. Yeah, it's a nice carbon steel blade. Of course, we got that nice fuller going on in there. I don't know what finish that they actually have on here. My first thought, because of the era, would be that it would be Parkerized, but it is way too smooth and shiny for that. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure exactly, but hey, it's around. I think it's kind of a neat piece of history, and it's in relatively decent shape for, you know, it being from World War II. I actually got this from an old employee of mine when I was working in some cutlery shops. He was trading me at the time for some different kind of technical work where he wasn't as technically inclined as I was. So, yeah. All right, next up, we're going to go a little bit more modern, and it's these guys here. This is from a company called Muela. They're a Spanish company, but at least for a very, very long time, they had been distributed by Fury, which is why they're stamped with that. And Fury is very much well known for producing absolute crap. And the rest of the stuff that we had from them in the cutlery shop was absolute crap. These guys just use them as a distributor. To my knowledge, they're still around. I think they're still kind of distributed through United Cutlery, but I don't think they have the Fury branding on them anymore. These are a couple of fixed blades. You got a little companion piece here. I don't have any fingerprints on these, but the corrosion inhibitor that I do have on them is a little cloudy, so I'm just kind of wiping them off a little bit here. I also haven't pulled a lot of these out for quite some time. But yes, these are 440C. We just have standard composite plastic. These aren't Delrin or nylon reinforced or anything like that. They are just kind of plastic. But we do have brass pins and full pommel and all that sort of good stuff. They are built pretty darn good. These are in 440C steel, and yeah, it works out all right. I actually picked this up many, many, many years ago at this point. Geez, I want to say somewhere around 2000, possibly 2001. And I picked them up because at that time I was doing a lot of environmental restoration work for the company that I was working for, and I wanted something that was a little bit more convenient than a machete. So I went to a cutlery shop, and this was kind of one of the best options there that wasn't a full machete type of deal there. The smaller knife is a little bit more convenient for day-to-day things. I don't really think the hand guards are super useful for a lot of EDC tasks. They kind of get in the way. But, you know, for them being a little bit more tactically inclined, Bowie style sort of things, yeah, they worked out all right. But yeah, I've slashed a lot of English ivy and willow branches and all sorts of stuff like that for salmon restoration projects that I did back in California a long time ago when I lived there. Alright, let's see. I also have this guy. This guy was my father's. That he Well, almost gave to me, but it ended up coming to me. He actually gave it to my ex-girlfriend, and after a while, she ended up passing it to me because, well, she wasn't going to use the darn thing. This is a good old Mark II. I would say K-bar, but it's not. But yes, this is definitely the Mark II fighter that everyone is fairly familiar with. We got that 1095 carbon steel blade. We do have the swedge on the backside. I have sharpened that up for a little bit of reverse tapping and whatnot with it. This has also certainly been one that I've... this was one of the first knives that I was trying to learn how to sharpen on from my dad's suggestion, because it is a carbon steel blade. So yeah, it is ground down a little bit more than it probably should be. And also, I think at one point he did take off the blacking on the blade. I think he had also at one point parkerized it himself, but then decided that he didn't want it on there and pulled it off. So yeah, this thing has definitely been around for a very, very long time. Now the sheath probably looks a little bit different. That's because he was in the Navy. He was not in the Marines. So this has a plastic and webbing sheath on there. There's the military number and information there for it. Because, you know, when you're out in the ocean and everything like that, leather tends to do some funky things. Yes, we still do have the leather rings for the handle, but they got rid of it on the sheath because that would generally be one of the first things to go. Now, over the years, since I've actually learned with this thing also how to throw fixed blades, I generally do the blade pointing towards me kind of approach to that. The pommel's just a little bit loose and whatnot. I don't honestly know how to do a full restoration job on any of these kind of things, but at some point it would probably be quite fun for me to do. If you're not familiar with them, yep, the blade comes all the way through to the back end there on the pommel. And yeah, other than that, I mean, without any of the history on this is just a standard Mark II knife from the American military. Okay, let's see. And, well, I do have one more military knife, and it's this guy right here. This is a cold steel. And I won this from a sales competition back when I was doing knife sales back in the very, very early 2000s. Yeah, this is the R1 Military Classic from Cold Steel here. This is in the VG1 Sanmai steel. So looking quite up there, you can see the lamination mark there, where we have the VG1 steel down there as the core, and we have some other steel on the outside of them. I don't remember off the top of my head what Cold Steel uses for their softer steel. It could be 410, it could be 420J2. Yeah, something like that. I'm not. Like I said, I don't quite remember. But the core of this is VG1. VG1 is fairly similar to VG10, and I guess it makes sense because these things were made in Japan. Yep, there we go. So it's right there at the top, made in Japan. And yeah, this handle here is micarta. It actually looks quite a bit like G10. From these little waves and everything like that. But it is micarta, and that does help a little bit with giving just a little bit more tactility, especially if you have some wet hands. But yes, this is just one of their reproduction things that they made. These things were very expensive. There's no way I would have really purchased this myself. But like I said, I won it from a sales competition. I actually got silver in it. The person before me had chosen, we had a few different things on offer, and he chose the titanium Tylite. Another neat knife, but what are you going to do? I was interested in this, and geez, with the sale price of them, I was kind of interested just from that point there. But yeah, I've never really carried or really used this thing much. Those scratches, yep, that came from the factory. And because these things were sent to us in our normal shipments for the week from the store, I don't actually have the original box for it, which is kind of sad for trying to sell it on the used market or something. But I can say for a fact that what they did package these things in were just their standard cheap blue cardboard boxes that aren't worth a darn anyway. That they probably still use a fairly similar variant to this day. At least they did when I got my giant cold steel, whichever the hell one that is. This guy. What is that? The Frenzy. That's it. I don't know why my voice cracked for that. Maybe I'm going through puberty. That'd be interesting. Maybe a little late for it at this point. But yeah, it's the R1 Military Classic. Sheath is done pretty darn well. Not absolutely fantastically perfect. You can definitely see that this was done in kind of a quick fashion. But the knife itself, super nice and great. Okay, let's see. What else do I have here? Well, I have a Morakniv. This is a 511 basic. In the carbon steel. Yep, I got that from Blade HQ free a couple of years ago when I purchased some things for some gifts for some other people, including some cold steel giant-ass throwing stars. Oh, kind of interesting. But, okay, yep. Keeping with some old stuff, I have an old Western fixed blade here. Now, my father gave this one to me, but I don't think it was his originally. I think his father probably gave it to him, because around the era where they were making this particular model, it was around the 1950s. And, well, my dad was old, but he wasn't that old. So, yeah, a dog has unfortunately chewed up the end of that over time. This thing is... Again, this was another one that he had me learn a lot of sharpening stuff on there. Now this one is using 1060, or sorry, 1075 steel that I think Western was using for a lot of their stuff here. And yeah, it's another leather stacked handle. We got a couple of different bands of different colors going on there. And you can see we have a couple of pins on the back here. The pommel, aluminum on this thing. It's not steel, so I got quite a bit chewed up over the years from using it. I do remember my grandfather actually using this to crack walnuts and things like that, so that probably had something to do with it. But yeah, we got a little brass guard here. Excuse me. If I remember right, this is part of their bird and trout style knives, so not necessarily for fighting or anything like that, but, you know, taking care of a small game when you're out there doing some small game hunting, things like that. And it's not all that bad of an EDC. Of course, this one is also carbon steel, and well, the sheath for it does definitely have some restrictions on the way that you can carry it, but you know, overall, not a bad little knife there. Now these guys are kind of interesting. You wouldn't be able to tell with it basically like this, but you can see from the top here the full tang, so to speak, of this thing. The middle of it doesn't exist. It's like a tuning fork on the other side here, but that's why they do have two pins instead of one, as they're pinning both sides of that down there. Works out all right, but maybe just a little bit less durable than some more modern manufacturing means. But it's another neat piece. Oh, let's see. Here's the other really kind of old and out there one that I got here. This, believe it or not, is a Kershaw. And believe it or not, even more than that, made in Germany. So, yes, there's that. This is a drop forged knife. This is stainless steel of some sort. If I remember right, it's 420HC, but I could be wrong on that. We do have some black micarta handles here. And yeah, this thing is super, super stout. This is basically a boot knife. You got your clip there where you would clip that into whatever footwear that you had. This thing has had a bit of wear before I got it personally. So even with this thing closed, you can accidentally have this thing kind of come out on you a little bit. A little unfortunate, but all right, what are you going to do? I have not seen these things like anywhere for a very, very, very long time. I don't honestly know when they were even made, but it's another neat piece. This was another one along with that World War II bayonet that a previous employee of mine at the cutlery shop had traded for me for doing some other technical work for him. So it was another pretty neat score. Let's see. So those are kind of a lot of the older ones out there. This is a very new one. And this is a CRJB Silex. And there's a lot of stuff I really like about this knife. The one thing I don't is the sheath here. It's, doesn't have any kind of clip attachment things that come with it. I don't know. I'm guessing maybe you could use a small tech lock on these things, but I honestly don't know. But the rest of this is super great. This wasn't exactly the colorway that I wanted, but it was definitely the one that was the cheapest, and, well, it's fixed blade. So, yeah, I got the murdered out version. We got black G10, black coated blade. It's using their RPM 9 steel. As you can see from that symbol there, this is a Dylan Mallory design. And it's fairly large for kind of an EDC fixed blade. You know, it's just a hair under a 5-inch blade. And that's something that I actually wanted. A lot of EDC fixed blades are on the smaller end, 3 to 4 inches or less, even for a lot of cases. And I wanted something a little bit larger in case I wanted to do a little bit of batoning with this, if I wanted to try to get through some tree limbs or knock down some firewood or something like that. This thing works out great, and it's nice and thin. And the AR RPM 9 steel on here is pretty good. Basically, what CJRB had done was, they kind of looked at a way to make a budget powder metallurgy steel, because almost all of them are on the very higher end, you know, from S30V on up, M390, M4, S90V, MagnaCut, all that sort of stuff. But they kind of wanted to offer that stuff for a little bit different sort of thing there. So they chose the composition here. And the composition here is very, very similar to 9CR18 MOV, which, if you're also familiar, is a very similar construction and kind of makeup of 440C. And believe it or not, many years ago, I think back in the 60s and 70s, maybe a little bit earlier, I'm not sure, Crucible did actually make a powderized version of 440C, and they called it S60V. And then it disappeared. Nobody really used it for knife, steel, or anything like that. But if you were actually curious as to why someone wouldn't have done that, well, there you go. So, yeah, it's a pretty decent powder metallurgy steel there. It is on the lower end as far as powder metallurgy steel goes, but that does make it work pretty darn good. This stuff has about the same kind of edge retention, give or take, depending on who actually made it, of D2, but it is fully stainless and just a little bit tougher. Not quite as tough as like 12C27 or 14C28N, but still nice and tough. So, yeah, I do really like this thing. I just, maybe at some point if I ever actually get into leather work, I might try to make a little bit different sheath for this thing. But the knife is fantastic. All right, well, what I'm going to do at this point is cut, and I'm going to do the second half in a separate video. Why? Well, they're all TwoSuns, so some people are interested in that. And for the people who aren't, you get a lot of the other interesting stuff without the other useless drivel that you might or might not appreciate. So, as always, I appreciate y'all for watching, and I'll be back rather soon. So have yourself a wonderful rest of your day, yo. Subscribe, baby.